So thanks everyone for joining on time. So my name is JunLiang. I am the trainer here in Amazon Seller Education team. And then later on, I will have Sean who will join us for the Q&A, and then he will help to address some of the questions that you guys may have. So please do take note that if you have any questions, you can put it into the Q&A box. We will address it during the end. Meanwhile, to confirm that you all can still hear me, if you can't see my screen or if you can't hear me, let me know so that I can see if what I can do over here, or you can try to re-log in. Okay, I'm gonna go and continue right now. All right. So for some, background context or introduction, right? I'm sure you all heard of the Amazon Global Selling team. Now, Amazon Seller Education team is also a team that is under Global Selling. This team is pretty new, that started this year, and then the team goal is to really create quality educational content for sellers like yourself, and then it will be delivered in either the Seller University or in live webinar session like these, where we have like live trainer where we invite SME to join in, so you can ask the questions and you get response during the webinar itself. So stay tuned, there'll be more upcoming of such webinar going forward. So before we begin, right, just to make sure that everyone is aware, the recording is available, the session is recorded, and then you can find it in the official Global Selling Asia YouTube playlist. The link is there. So again, all the resources that we are going to share during the session can also be found in the video descriptions, and you can go back to rewatch if you miss out any certain parts, etc. So your questions, if you have any, put in the Q&A box and then we can address it. And then last but not least, the information that we share today is accurate as of today. Now, as you know, some policy may change, and then some other things may be different on, when you are rewatching this video on a very later date. So always refer to our online resources on Seller University or even Seller Central Help to get the most updated information. All right, important notice, something that, my legal team reminds me that this is something we have to share in all public-facing webinars. So do have a quick read, about 5 seconds. Yep. Okay, so today we are going to cover, these are the topic: preliminary preparation for creating your listing, the organizing the materials needed to create your listing, and also how to ensure your listing is compliant and sellable. Last but not least, we end with some guide from the Seller University, and we're going to have a FAQ and Q&A as well. So first of all, we talk about the product compliance, the preparation. What is product compliance, right? So you can just read mainly the red text, right? It just means that the buyer should be able to find a variety of the safe, reliable, and compliant product offered on Amazon's.com. So simply put, right, there are some requirements for certain product in terms of the safety, legality, depending on the how the product is being transported, etc. So this requires certain certificate for some product category, which we will go through in a few slides. Again, so these are the list of products, right, that require review for the marketplaces in Amazon US. So there is a couple of links there I will show as well during at the end. These are the restricted products in different columns and prohibited products. And also meaning that if you were to list such products, right, it may require additional documentation from the regulatory, depending on what types of category you are selling. And you will need to provide those documentation before you can list the items. Yeah. So these are the common US market regulatory organizations. You can see that these are the different categories covered for different regulators over there in US. I don't think this is a full list. I believe that if you are selling maybe some other more niche category, there might be some other requirements from the other regulatory. Do your due diligence as well to make sure that you are aware of what are the government, the federal entities that covers the specific category that you're selling. But these are the common one that we regularly see appearing. So you should know by now that actually from the most of the categories, right, you will need to provide a unique product identifier, which is called GTIN. You might have heard it a lot of times. It's called Global Trade Item Number. You can read through this, long string of text below. Basically, it just means product ID that is able to uniquely identify your item. So different product may have different types of ID like UPC, ISBN, EAN, JN, and so on. Now, one thing to bring to your point is maybe just on the yellow box there. The use of false product identification information include the product ID is not allowed, is prohibited, so it can result in your creation of the privilege being removed. So what this means is that do not try to use some ID that is not yours to try and find a way to list the item. So it will be easily found out, and then means that you will be so-called prohibited, your account will be restricted because Amazon will verify the authenticity of the product ID against this GS1 database. So the recommendation or the only way is you have to obtain your product identifier directly from GS1 and not from other third parties that is not recognized. So do go to the website. You can Google for the GS1. So it is basically a company that standardize and keep tracks of all the barcodes on the unique product ID across the world globally. You might have questions like, what if your product do not have a product ID? Well, it's actually possible. So these are some of the possibilities. So if that really happens, right, you will need to request for a GTIN exemption. So typically, how do you kind of, or rather, what kind of situation can you apply for the GT exemption? So there are like about 4 situations there. First of all, it means that the product that you want to sell, which is the brand or the manufacturer or the publisher, do not have a GTIN. For example, things like your private labeling, private label products or handmade products. Secondly, the product that you want to list, right, do not have the barcodes. Again, it could be like the private label product or even the handmade products. Third one is product that do not have a GTIN by default. Things like automotive parts or even like mobile accessories. You don't really see, IDs on the handphone casing, that kind of stuff, right? And then lastly, if you were to sell like a bundle pack of more than one product, you might be combining certain products together, like what the example here shown, a leather belt, wallet, that kind of bundle. Then these are the things that you can request for the GTIN exemption. So this is just telling you where you can, what you need to provide during the GTIN exemption page. So there's a link there I can share as well. So basically, you just need to select which are the category of the product that you plan to list or plan to sell on Amazon.com, and then you will put in the required information there, and then you will help to check for the eligibility, whether or not it is something that you could have the GTIN exemption granted. All right, these are just some of the so-called links or the instruction that where you can do the GTIN exemption. You can go back and watch the recording if you need to go through. Basically, the key point is that you can request a multiple exemption at one time, up to 10. All right. So usually within 48 hours, you will receive an email from Amazon whether or not it's been exempted, or rather whether or not it's been approved for the category that you're applying for the exemption. I think we are all good. If you have any question, please feel free to put in a Q&A. I already saw some questions there. Thank you so much. Now we are going to move on about the brand name. So I'm sure we all hear a lot about this thing like brand name or brand. So there's actually something called the brand name policy. So in Amazon terms, or rather the policy that we have, the Amazon brand name policy. So basically explain how the use of the brand attributes on your ASINs. All right, so the brand attribute on the listing, right, should match the name of the brand that produced the product. Meaning that, for example, the Amazon product called Amazon Basics, it should always show Amazon Basics on the detail page, which I will share in the few examples in the next few slides. And so, of course, you will need approval from Amazon before listing product with new brand attributes. So for example, your item may have some attribute that is not the commonly found ones. That is something that you will require some approval that you can request. Then you can put in the attributes for your listing. And if you are listing a non-branded product, let's say you get a GTIN exemption, for example, and then it is actually a non-branded product, you can use generic in the brand attribute field. So, in terms of brand, how Amazon consider a brand? So it is how it's considered a brand is that a name that represents the product or the set product. So the product from the same name, same brand, share a common name like a logo or other identifying mark that appear on its product or its packaging. So non-branded product, it's basically things that doesn't belong to any brand. It's quite straightforward. All right. So non-branded product means that there's no common name or logo, or it's usually like there's no other whatsoever mark that is unique to identify a product. Even the label is just generic. Nothing is on the packaging, etc. So this is just a process, like a simple flow to help you identify how do you use the correct product attribute when listing a product. So you think whether or not is the product clearly branded. So if it's yes, some of the example here is that you can see on the packaging that it is a branded product. And then when you list it right, it should have no error normally. Let's say if it's already a registered brand. So sometimes you may encounter certain error like 5661, 5664, 5665. I'll go through it later in a few slides. Well, what does it mean? So let's say if your product has no brand, meaning that there's nothing shown on there, and then that is something that you are planning to list it, then you can put it as generic as the brand. All right, so there are some examples here, like you can see the brand value, you could put it as generic brand because on that item itself, right, it should not have any form of a wording or branding. All right, so these are the common errors. So it's a little bit cryptic, I know. Sometimes you will see when you submit your listing, there may pop up something like a error code 5661. So typically, this may mean that the seller, you might be, maybe putting in a brand field that is not complying with the brand name policy. So if you see 5664, so you may be listing a generic product, but you're not using generic as the brand name. Again, this is not compliant with the brand name policy. And then for 5665 error, it just means that there must be approval before you can use this brand name in your product listing. Now, however, if you think that you are already compliant, or you believe that you are not having any of these situations that don't apply to you, you can contact the seller support and provide them the error code. They can do more check on the back end for you and then get back to you. So if you were to have this situation, right, you need to contact the seller support. These are the info that you should provide at minimum for them. You need to provide the brand name that is being used when you're creating your listing, and then show them your image of the product, etc. All right. And then whatever info you have to help them to identify what you're trying to list, you should provide them so that they can help to resolve it quickly for you. If you have all this info, without them, keep to and fro just to ask you for the information. And do note that if your product has a sticker is not considered permanently a fixed branding. Okay, so you can't use a sticker to actually say that, oh, this product has a brand, or it's my brand, and you put a sticker on it. It is not so-called recognized as a fixed branding. All right, we're going on to the 8 major components of what we call a complete listing. So these are the 8 critical elements: product title, product image, bullet point, description, search term, A+ content, browse note, and the brand name. I'll go through in a few slides on some of the examples. All right. So I'm sure you guys see, all the kind of listing before on the Amazon.com. So I just, pick a random product to give a sense of, where this information displayed. So on top, there's the brand, so-called the product title or the product name. And then below, there will always be the brand, so-called the brand name. And then there's product images. Make sure that you have like high quality image that can be zoomed in as well. And then the bullet points are below. So for the brand title, right, typically it's advised, the best practice to have like brand name with your product name, product feature, and model. All right, and of course include the most important search item, or put a search term there if it's something that is relevant. All right, but there will be word count as well, which I will share later. So you can't put like a super long product name or. So if you scroll down further, right, on a product, right, you will see things like the product description. So over here, you can put in a little bit more detail to describe your product, something that you want to expand on your bullet points above. So you can share a lot more details here for your shoppers to kind of understand your product better. And this is the A+ content. So this feature, it's only available for the brand registered seller who are enrolled in the brand registry. So you'll be able to use this A+ content feature to put in more, engaging kind of images on your product listing. So with this, right, you can combine your images and product description, etc., to convey even other certain specific requirements, etc., to make it more appealing for your shoppers, for your customers. All right, but do know that this is only for the sellers who are on the brand registry. They are registered as a brand owner, and that is something I believe is also only on the professional plan. All right, next 2 point is more on about the search terms, or rather, when you are trying to buy or search for something on the Amazon.com, right, the customer will enter the search keywords on top on the search bar. So products that includes those search terms that you are putting there will appear on the search result. So something you will want to do is try to match against the information, such as title, description that you provide for your product, so that there'll be some factors that is included, such as how closely the text matches, the price, the availability, selection, and sales history, that will determine, whether or not the product appear in the customer search result, right? So if you are able to provide the relevant specific information on your product listing, that will help you increase your product visibility and your sales eventually. So another thing on the left side that you see is the what we call the browse node kind of thing. So when the result is shown, customers can actually further narrow down their result based on what they select on the left side. So if you have set this up right, it will also help, for the shoppers, the customers to filter accordingly to help your product appear easily so that it won't be excluded. All right, this one you can read through. I'll share the link as well. This is just the things that I mentioned earlier on, but this is in a more detailed format. These are all the 8 key major components of a complete listing. So this is something interesting. So there is something called the listing completeness score we have here. So how this score is being calculated, right? It's based on the listing feature that you are using. So on the left column, you can see the scoring attribute. So this is something that you can do your own. That let's say if you have your brand name there, you consider like you have 10 points. If you have your proper product description, you have 10 points, and so on and so forth. So the ideal that, based on the data we see, right, we would recommend sellers to at least try and achieve a 80 point as the minimum benchmark. So that is determined in terms of the completeness grade. We can see like, A to F grade. Basically, it just means that for the grade A, the score is around 80 to 100, meaning that you would have utilized most of the attributes. And then, it just means that listing with this kind of grade usually performs better, and so on and so forth. So try to utilize all the feature as much as possible, and of course, including the best practice, not trying to spam, too much irrelevant text in your listing. That will really help you have a listing shine a lot. Yep. So this is just to show that there's a different kind of this completeness score for different categories. We don't have to go into details, but regardless of which category, right, we should still try to hit the minimum 80 points as much as possible. So this is to show, the cycle. If you were to do, all the using the 8 features, it will actually help to create a cycle of attracting the more shoppers and then having more organic internal traffic, and also be able to have more order creation and conversion. All right, this just give a view of how it will benefit you if you have a good, complete listing. So last but not least, regarding the listing completeness, this is based on a survey that we did. So in comparison, right, those who achieve like a grade A listing completion grade usually ends up having a more order volume compared to the rest of the listing grades here, just for your information. All right, this is only a policy update, but as of the last year, December 1st, new and existing listing for specific product category, right, would have to provide color names, size name, product description, category name attribute as well. Right. So yeah, you can read through these. This is just telling you that if you are in, using some of these product category, some of the attribute will become required during the listing process. All right, I'm moving to the third point already. So for those of you who joined earlier on when I already started, Remember that you can use the Q&A box to put in your questions, and then we will answer it during the end of the session before we end. All right, going on to the next one. So this is about how you can avoid getting suppressed. So what are suppressed means in the Amazon context? So sometimes when you will do some listing, you may see there's a word called suppress in Seller Central. So that means that suppressed listing, right, will not be shown in the search results due to quality issue. Meaning that anything that's shown as suppressed, right, nobody can see or find your product. So this is important. We should try to address all these suppressed issue so that that will impact your sales, right? So again, in short, usually if you see suppressed, means that something in your listing is not compliant, or there are some lack of info, or info is not something that is acceptable. So you should go in quickly to make sure that fix the issue, and then the platform will reevaluate and remove the suppression. So some common issue that we see that will get it suppressed. So it could be things like your main image is missing, or your attribute, etc., is missing, the bullet point is missing, or you have a title longer than 200 characters. It will also cause the listing suppression, or you don't have a valid UPC. You may have put in some numbers there, but after checking backend, it's actually not a valid one. All right, so these are the very common issue faced by sellers when their listing is getting suppressed. So there are just some examples here. You can see, I know it's not English, but it is still, the idea is that not to put in too long of a title. It will get suppressed if it's a very, very long title. And also, if let's say, especially in like clothing or accessory, if you have the incomplete info provided, it will also get suppressed. For example, like child listing in shoes, if you don't have the size value or color, it will get suppressed, or etc. You can see over here. Yeah. So I won't be able to cover all the reason, but in general, it just basically means something is not there, and then you just have to go into the listing and then just fix it based on the error that appear. Right. Similarly, these are just the common causes of the regarding images that may cause a suppression of your listing. Again, these are also very technical things like telling your image, how many pixels it should be, what is the RGB value, etc. Right. So if you want to be very specific, you can go into the link that I will share as well to read into it. So basically, I would say if you have any images for your product, what you can do is just upload it up first, and then if it gets suppressed, then you try to fix it. I don't think it's required to really read through all this before you do your uploading of image. So this is talking about the requirements if you want to utilize the A+ content. Again, like I mentioned, the A+ content only available to professional seller who have been approved as brand owner through the Amazon brand registry process. All right. And again, these are these requirements for uploading your A+ content. Okay, to make it simple, right, these are some of the common so-called the non-compliant image that we see. The top one is something that is, not compliant. You can see that it is, first of all, like not a pure white background. All right. And then second one, similarly, is not a pure white background. So if you have been looking through or shopping on Amazon.com, you realize that most of the image are pretty consistent, or rather all, because they all have a very clean and clear image. Only the product itself is showing. The rest of the background are actually white in color. All right, and then things you need to take note that your let's say if your product has a model inside, right? There are some things you need to take note of, things like the shadow, etc. Okay. Then this is also showing what are some of the non-compliant images, right? First one, you can see there's a little bit too many like digital graphic, etc. It's not compliant. And then for the back, right, if you have the color variant, right, it should not be shown on the image itself. It should be like you should use the variant feature to list out your different variant and the color. Right, so I think you probably get the idea of what is considered, a good image and not a good image. All right. So this is also showing that you should only show like single angle and color, not to put too many, or rather, you not to have more than one product that you're selling, putting the same image. So, yep. So above are all the bad example of the image. So these are more for seller who are selling apparel, things like uh, bracelet, wallet, etc., bags. Yep. All right. All right. So you can see, right, you can have models for all these items, and it is only available. You can only use the models only for apparel category. So if you're selling this product category that you see here, it should be a product itself with the white background. All right. So this is also showing non-compliant. The first one on top is there's no packaging or tag should be allowed to appear in the listing image. And for this, you should not have like extra product or accessory. So I think the idea is like kind of might mislead the shopper, customer into thinking that it's part of the product that you're selling. All right, you should not put like additional items that is beside the main product that you're selling. Also, no cropping of the image as well. As much as possible, the whole product should appear, right? It should not be cropped to the extent that you can't see the whole product itself. These are all the bad example above, and then you should try to follow the one below. Yep. Right now, we go on to talk about the requirement for the title. So just I think that there's a lot of info. Maybe I'll focus on the red one, which I think are important. Do not use all caps. That is important, and then you should spell the unit of measure. All right, be clear in your title, and then do not use like emojis or the kind of different character with accent, etc. there, unless it is part of your brand. All right, and do not include things like promotional message, discount, free, or get it now. The kind of promotional messages is also not allowed. Yep. And then for your bullet points, I would say although you cannot exceed 500, but I would say 200 character is the recommended one, so that it's not too crowded or not too messy when the shopper are looking at your listing. Right? And then similarly on your bullet point, right, do not include those promotional information or those very subjective terms like best product of the year or great value, etc. This is also not recommended and not allowed as well. And these are just the requirements for your product descriptions. Uh, I would say the general advice is, yeah, do not use those very, promotional kind of messages, which you don't actually see it in Amazon. That is something not advisable. Now this is about search terms also. Do not use the product identification information, to in terms of the search term, etc. All right. So there's actually a whole list of this requirement that I will share, so you can read through it. Just trying not to bore you, that you can have more time for the Q&A portion. All right, next I want to share is about Seller University. So there's actually a very comprehensive guide there, which again, like I mentioned, they will have a list of this information on how to have a proper listing, etc. A lot of information there that you can go to. Just go over the Seller University and search for listing. And you can see which one is most suitable for what you're trying to do on the Seller Central. Right. And over there, you can select the topic, you can study at your own pace. It will also help you to keep track of your learning progress. All right, this is where you can find Seller University. On the navigation, once you log into Seller Central, you can go to Learn and then go to Seller University. So for those without the Seller Central account, right, you can also find Seller University content. It will be on the website under Learn as well, but I think it will direct you to content that is available on the public website as well. The only difference is that it doesn't helps to track your progress, and some of the guide definitely won't be as comprehensive because something that you visit on a public site, you won't have access to Seller Central, so there will be limitation in terms of the guidance they can provide on the public site, because some of the links actually links you back to the Seller Central to click on certain feature, etc. So Prime Day is coming, not sure when, but it's coming soon. That's why we have this one pager. You can quickly use your phone to do the scanning now and download the PDF. It's a one pager quick guide. So there are things like the listing FAQ and how you can do advertising and promotions, and also regarding FBA if you're fulfilling your order through fulfillment by Amazon. I'll leave it here for a few seconds for you to quickly scan it and download the file first. And then on the next one, we will move on to what are the frequently asked questions that we normally see from the sellers. Meanwhile, if you have other questions, you can put on the Q&A as well. Okay, so these are the frequently asked questions. So is the title same thing as product name? So yes, so the product title is the same thing as the product name, because sometimes you may see these two terms used exchangeably. And next question is, what if my brand name contains the prohibited character? Like I mentioned earlier on, your brand name contains like the copyright logo or the trademark logo or etc. So if it does contains prohibited character, right, that character will be exempt from the title requirements. So well, if it is really part of your branding, you should still put it there. And then if there were any issue raised, then you can file any so-called to the seller support or any kind of appeal that you can to say that it's actually part of your brand. All right. So does Amazon automatically put a branding on the start of my title, or do I need to do that myself? So we recommend you begin with a title with the product brand name, in addition to ensuring the brand name field is populated. Yeah. So I think sometimes if you put a listing, right, you may see that it's auto-populated for you. So yeah, that is something good that you need to do to have your brand name appear. So however, there are still, or rather we have system in place to add the brand name to the beginning of the title if it's missing. So what if my product doesn't have a brand name? So if a product is a generic brand with no brand name, you don't need to state a brand name you can enter the word generic in the brand name field. So when you're putting in your listing, you can, in fact, when you do the checkbox that you say my product don't have a brand, it will kind of auto-populate generic in the field for you. And then of course in your brand name, you don't have to put anything on your title. How do I know if my listing has been suppressed? All right, if you go to your manage inventory on the Seller Central, you can click, there's an option to filter to look at all the suppressed listing. Another question is, what if another seller title violates the title requirement and cause a product that I'm also selling to become unsearchable? Well, this one is something that you might need to contact the seller support to request a title correction if the other seller has not corrected it. Next frequently asked question we have is that, does the brand registered product have the same title requirements? So it's yes. So regardless whether your product is it having a generic brand or a registered brand, right, it will have the same requirements for all the listing. So our title requirement is the same if you're fulfilling by FBA or if you're doing MFN, meaning that you fulfilled the item yourself. So again, yes, there's no differentiation. Title requirements are the same regardless of how you fulfill your product. So next one is the model numbers. Is it recommended in the title? So maybe, like some product may have model number, right? This one will have to refer to the category style guide that will actually recommend whether or not it should be appearing for some categories. So there is a few different category with different requirement. That link will be shared as well. It's best to go and check it out. What if my title is missing product identifying information such as color, material, size? So the title must contain key product identifying information for the customer to understand the items, right? So, okay, back end, there will be some system, our system will do some check, etc. So to avoid it being suppressed, right, we will recommend you to create a title with the sufficient information that clearly represent the product itself. And then next is what are the requirements to sell gated or restricted product? It's best to do your due diligence first, depending on the product that you want to lease. Alternatively, you can list it first, and then you can go to the manage your compliance dashboard under account health. If there's additional approval or document you need to submit, it will appear there. That's one of the way. So the other way is I will share the link as well that you can go and check it out, which item or which product category that may need additional requirements. All right, last is, do I have to enroll my trademark while listing? So it's not a must to enroll in the brand registry. You will need to have your trademark registered. It is highly recommended if you're a brand owner to have a trademark registered, basically for brand protection purposes. And then in those cases, if let's say your brand are being infringed, you can you can file an infringement on the brand registry. All right, but do note that if you want to do a trademark registration, it's going to take some time, maybe about 2 months or so. So do take this into factor when you are listing. Because one is you list an item with, let's say, no brand, you can't change it. So in order to change it, right, you need to create a new listing. So do take that into consideration. Okay, now, so I've seen a few questions from the registrant today. So one of the question I got was like, I have many product without ASIN cannot list. All right, so I believe you mean that your product probably don't have a GTIN because the ASIN is actually only generated when a new product listing is created. So if you are listing existing product, right, it will be associated to the existing ASIN. So I'm assuming you are referring that your product don't have a GTIN instead of ASIN. But if you are here, let me know if I understand your question wrongly. Now, I'm assuming you are talking about GTIN, right? Then you can apply for a GTIN exemption based on the following scenario that we went through earlier on. Next question I got was regarding manufacturing details change. Again, I have no context, but if you're here, feel free to put in the Q&A as well what it means. So I'm assuming you're referring to how the product is being manufactured, right? So if those details are in your listing, sorry I missed out here, you can actually update your listing accordingly to reflect, let's say if the material you are using to manufacture certain things are changed. That is something you can add in your listing, not an issue. But if this is not what you meant, please do let us know in the Q&A. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the Q&A. I think Sean has helped to answer a few already. All right, let me take a look at the Q&A. So meanwhile, while you're putting on more questions, right, I'm going to start a poll to collect some data for you so that it can help us improve the future session and also for training and quality purposes. I just started the poll. You can help me spend like maybe 1 minute to fill it up. It won't be shared, so it's only for internal. So once you're done with the poll, I will just end the poll. And it's totally anonymous, so please do choose the option to provide anonymous poll if you can. Right, let me take a look at the question. Okay, so one of these question about can sell dog food to Amazon from Philippines? Yep, Sean said yes, you can if you have the necessary compliance document. All right. The next question is, may I know the compliance document? Oh, I assume this is a follow-up from the same attendees. So mainly you will need the FDA certification to make sure that the pet food you want to sell is safe for consumption. All right. So again, depends on what you're selling. So this is maybe for dog food, but for other category, there may be other regulatory. I think I shared in the first few slides on what are the common US regulatory you need to look for to get the documents. All right, I have 2 open questions. Let me see. And also, if you have your question that you put in during registration that is not here, I may need you to put in the Q&A because I extracted the question list last evening. So maybe if you were to sign up this morning, I may not have seen your question here. All right, so I have this question regarding, hi, manufacturer name. EXP data, I believe is what, expiry date or something? Not able to update in Seller Central.
Actually, just to check, right? For if you're talking about expiration date and you're buying from like these, so weird. Moment. Yeah, so let's just say you are buying from manufacturing date, right? And you're just a reseller, right? You cannot change the expiration date, right? Because it's preset by the manufacturer itself. So let's just say you are talking about the manufacturer date, right? And it's unable, and if you are just a reselling the product, right, then you cannot change the manufacturer expiration date or any details of anything, because the ASIN is not created by you. So if you are the brand owner of the product, right, only then you are able to change the details and also the attributes, right, as they call it. Yeah.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, so next question is, once you have a seller account but have no product listing yet, how much time do you have to list your product?
There's no fixed time to list your product. It's totally up to you. But however, right, because if you are inactive at the account for a certain amount of period of time, right, you'll be triggered for re-verification. So please do take note of that, lah. Yeah. So usually the time taken would be like maybe like 30 days. You have to log in once or do something in your account. If not, right, you'll be considered as inactive.
All right, thank you, Sean. Any more questions from anyone? Please feel free to put it in. I'll go on to the next slide. All right, these are just all the link that I'll be sharing. So I think you can, when it's uploaded, you can go to the video description on the playlist on the video, then you can check it out. All right, and then before we end, if you have more questions, we'll be here, but I want to share with you that we have some more upcoming sessions. All right, and then these are different topics for you. So if you think there is something you want to learn more, please do sign up. So where you can sign up over here, the first QR code. All right, it will link you to our webinars and event page. And then you can sign up from there based on the topics. There are also in-person events. So if you are interested, you can sign up for in-person event as well this month that we have. So recording wise, it will be uploaded here. You can check your email. So usually a day or two, there will be a automated email from Zoom inside that will be able to share the link as well over there. You can watch the recording. In terms of the session today, right, it will be uploaded in usually within the week. And then I'll be able to upload there. So remember to subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel. So when there's any new video, you'll also be informed. That channel is not just on our webinar. There will be other resources as well over there for you to look at. All right, that we have is the Seller University link. So this one is something you can access from without Seller Central account. All right, so if you're not on Seller community page on Facebook yet, this is where to go to sign up. Okay, let me see. I think we have one last question on, again, I think the question is on, can we sell dog soap? Yes, you can, but anything that touches the body or consumption, you have to get compliance documentation. So FDA is one of it, all right? Okay, I think that's all we have today. Remember to sign up and I will see you at the next session. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.